All right, so the next one, let's shift gears here. Let's go to the Big 12 because you asked who will win the Big 12 title. And our first response comes from Sooner Magic, who, by the way, as I was going through your replies, Sooner Magic is in there a lot. Sooner Magic says Oklahoma will still win. The best thing for them to succeed this year was a loss.
You know, that is a man that has watched a lot of Oklahoma football over the past 20 years. That's what I can tell you from that, because up until, I believe, 2021, it had been something like 12 years since Oklahoma had made it through the month of October without a loss, right? Somehow, some way, find a way to lose to Kansas State, Texas Christian, Texas Tech, Iowa State, whomever, and then they bounce back and they run the table for the rest of October, and famously hadn't taken a loss in the month of November in the Lincoln Riley era until he took a loss in November in the Lincoln Riley era and then off to Southern California. I see it. I understand that you're trying to put some voodoo, to sprinkle some magic on the Sooners, if you will. But hey, dog, like, they ain't running wishbone. It ain't 1985, and everybody else can play. Now, I made this point once before. I'll make this point again. You're going to have to find a new way to win at the University of Oklahoma. With Bob Stoops, you brought in the idea of defense being dominant, but you also had an air raid offense that has had legendary quarterback play. All right? Like, think about the guys that have come through the University of Oklahoma at quarterback. From Josh Heupel, who Torrance Marshall went to go get his Heisman back from Florida State, right? All the way through to Jason White, Heisman winner. Sam Bradford, Heisman winner, #1 overall pick. Sammy Finesse with the NFL contracts, right? All the way through to Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. And in between there, we weren't bad, right? Landry Jones has seriously almost every statistical passing record that there is at the University of Oklahoma. And Trevor Knight beat Nick Saban in the Sugar Bowl. And as you'll find out a little bit later on, Trevor Knight has done something Arkansas ain't done since I was a senior in high school. Beat Nick Saban. Trevor friggin' Knight, y'all. So I hear you in the glass half empty part of this conversation about how a loss is going to help them propel them back to the Big 12 championship. But you know what, Doug? I don't want to have to live that way. I'm 35 going on 86 here because the stress this team puts me under every single year. Backs against the wall, might as well be on the right underneath, play like a champion. Yeah, Tyler, I didn't forget about it. We're going to have conversation about this ongoing. Look, I need just 1 year where we ain't got to do this. We ain't got to go straight to the replies talking about, hey, look, we take a loss and then we run the table. This ain't Lincoln Riley's Big 12 anymore. You know what I'm saying? It ain't Bob Stoops' Big 12 anymore. Everybody else can play, and that terrifies me. I guess maybe, because I think that Oklahoma is fallible. But, you know, we're also not just coming off of a loss at night. And you know how Tyler, have we talked about how Oklahoma fans love a night game? And everybody was geared up for the night game, and they did the LED lights at the night game, and then they got sunned 41-34 in the night game. Maybe, just maybe, Tyler, big noon kickoff is a good thing for the University of Oklahoma. I don't know. Might be something there. Somebody's going to hear that, and somebody's going to get in my Twitter mentions, Tyler.
Yeah, it was a little reminiscent of that 2012 game at night in Norman. Stripes and all.
James Harden got traded that night, too. That was in the press box covering that game. That was a bad night.
Yeah.
Bad night, man. Tydale stunning us. Bob Diaco. Tyler.
Big game,
we
Bobby
got sunned by Bob Diaco.
I remember that. He has great hair, though. All right, I want to get to the next response. This is going to hurt a little bit. This one comes from RCJ Graves. RCJ didn't even say anything. He just put a picture of Adrian Martinez giving a little bow to the Oklahoma crowd last Saturday. So I'm going to take this as them saying that Kansas State's going to win the Big 12.
Hey, when I saw this in the rundown, to peel back the curtain a little bit, I was like, okay, all right, I understand. Producer Tyler saw it, and now I have seen it. You know what? He bowed when he scored that last touchdown in front of the home crowd. Adrian Martinez coming in saying, no, I'm Batman. Watch me. And here's the performance. You're welcome. Look, Kansas State is not going to win the Big 12 championship. Now that I said that, probably going to go to the top of the list of contenders to win the Big 12 championship, but Kansas State is not going to win the Big 12 championship. Y'all are fine. Y'all are fine to good. You know, you beat LSU in a bowl game where we got to hear, you know, our man, his man, Brian Kelly, out here all of a sudden being Cajun after growing up in Massachusetts and coaching at Cincinnati, Central Michigan, and South Bend, Indiana. Yeah, just back to his roots, watching his team get sunned on by the Kansas State Wildcats. Emaw. You know what I'm saying? Emaw, just don't expect to emaw to a Big 12 championship, because as much as I like to talk about Chris Klieman winning national championship, that's still something he ain't got. Big 12 championship, and it ain't just beating Oklahoma. That means you're going to get to the Big 12 championship. And that's what I'm trying to tell everybody, Tyler. Everybody in this league can play this year, man. Texas and West Virginia are at the bottom of this league. Texas and West Virginia are going to be playing to try to see who can be 8th instead of 10th in this league. Think about that for a second. I mean, you made this point a couple weeks ago, and I flitted it away like an idiot. That is reminiscent of 2007, right? We were saying, hey, this feels a lot like 2007. I said, hey, man, when Kansas becomes number 3 team in the country, talk about 2007. I ranked Kansas last week, Tyler. You see that?
I did.
I ranked Kansas because they're 4-0. We got Kansas putting out Kansas paraphernalia going. In case y'all didn't know, Jalen Daniels ranked 2,500 in the world, and he's sunning the rest of this league and the rest of college football. I can't call it, so I'm going to just say Kansas State's not going to win the Big 12 championship, but I'm going to throw it back to you. Kansas State going to win the Big 12 championship?
No.
Okay.
All right. That's our Kansas State segment. All right, moving on to the next one. This one comes from the cynic who says Oklahoma State.
They're due. I mean, they got 6 inches short of winning it last year against Baylor. I mean, Spencer Sanders throws 4 interceptions to Baylor. Maybe they win that game. They get them again this weekend for a spot, what I think is going to be a spot in the Big 12 championship. Maybe it'll be a rematch of those two. But if Spencer Sanders is hell-bent on throwing Baylor to football again, I don't think they're going to win again. And, as much as we want to talk about Spencer Sanders being great this year, he ain't played nobody, Paul. It's just Baylor, at least I got to see him against Brigham Young. I think Brigham Young's a good football team, right? I also know that Baylor replaced a 1,600-yard running back that was once a linebacker for them with a dude that was ranked 710th in the 2021 recruiting class named Richard Reese from Bellevue, Texas, and he leads them in rushing this year. I'm saying you're going to have to play clean football if you expect to win a Big 12 championship, and playing clean football against Baylor and Texas and Oklahoma, for that matter, ain't exactly what Spencer Sanders has been hell-bent on doing. And as much as Mike Gundy is hell-bent on making Spencer Sanders his starting quarterback, so much so that Shane Illingworth said, I'm going to the transfer portal. I don't think that Oklahoma State is going to win, but it would not shock me if Oklahoma State won the Big 12 championship, Tyler.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot about Oklahoma State this weekend. They had to think about that loss all offseason. Now they get their chance of revenge against Baylor. So we'll learn a lot about them this weekend. Let's move on to our next one. This one comes from a former guest of the show. Angelo Dawkins says Kansas.
I love Angelo. I love the Street Profits. We want the smoke. The Profits is up. He's my favorite of the two. No disrespect, Montez. Angelo to the heart, man. Angelo to the heart. He's wrong. I love him. He's right about his Buckeyes. I hope his Bengals do great. He's wrong about Kansas. I think that Kansas could shock everybody by making the Big 12 championship game, and I would not turn down nothing but my collar to see Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks in the Big 12 championship game because, one, I was early in on a Kansas Jayhawks train, early in by at least 18 months. One, because I really like it when Kansas plays good football because I like the idea of a basketball school claiming to be a football school, but also that is a genuinely good football coach who has convinced his team that he is about them.
I agree. I love Kansas. Great story. Whole lot of fun. Jalen Daniels, great player. I like the Cyclones this weekend. All right, let's move on to our next one. This one comes from Lucky Stuff, and I've got all sorts of questions about this response. Lucky Stuff says, as a Baylor fan, I would love to see Texas Tech win a Big 12 championship. RJ, how do you feel about that?
I don't know what's my man Lucky Stuff? Yep. Lucky, do you know if you're coming or going? Is it upside down when you're right side up where you at, dog? Is east west or west east? Does the sun rise in the west and set in the east? Because Baylor is supposed to have one rival in this entire conference. It's supposed to be Texas Tech. They don't even play the games in Waco or Lubbock for that reason. They get to go play at Jerry World because they're trying to make Wreckham and Sickham into something, and it ain't materialized into something. Now, all of a sudden, I got the Baylor fans saying, I want nice things for Tech. Look, long as I'm alive, you will not get me to say things like, it'd be nice to see Oklahoma State win a Big 12 championship game. For what? For who? For why? Nah, man, pick a side. Stand aside. You know what I'm saying? Now, it'd be nice to see Texas win the national championship. For who? For what? How? So there's that. But I guess my man is inspired by Joey Maguire's WWE promo at the conclusion of sunning Texas 37-34. One of the best promos that I have seen from a head coach in some time. And remember, we used to get a lot of good promos. Steve Spurrier used to just hammer them. Lane Kiffin used to hammer them. Every now and again, we could even get Nick Saban or Kirby Smart to say something nice or harsh about their opponent as they're trying to get in the college football playoff. This is the first time all year I got to see somebody stand on top of something and yell back down at them, you ain't no good, and we beat you down, and everybody got to come get the belt from us. Maybe that's what Lucky Stuff is absolutely on board for, but you can't claim to be Baylor fan one and do that, dog.
Are they confused? Because, yeah, like you said, the handle is literally at Be the Baylor fan one. And unless they were so convinced by Maguire's speech after that game against Texas, is it like in Rocky IV when the Russians started cheering for Rocky at the end of the fight for reasons still unknown to everyone who watched that movie? I'm just so confused, especially a team within Baylor's conference. Why would you want to see any other team other than your own win the Big 12, let alone a rival? I don't know.
Hey. We have lots of questions for you, Lucky Stuff. Go ahead and send us some more tweets.
Yeah, thanks for listening, though. Thanks for watching the show. All right, hopefully next week we'll get a follow-up or maybe another question. Okay.
Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.